Garage Engineer. We are going to take one of our 4 motors that we got on a Facebook Marketplace score. If you want to see more about that, check out our previous video where we go through just an introductory of the 4 motors that we got, and we built stands to hold those. Today we're going to take our first one to see if we can save it. This is the Western Auto motor. And we don't know the model because the model number scratched. Maybe we can get more details when we start getting into it. We can find a better model number on here and get more details. But this one I think had somewhat better chances of surviving usability. So let's get into it. So get into just a quick tour of everything. This one was one that had compression on it. I can't do it with one hand, but it does have compression. We're going to test the compression to see if it's good or not. This has been painted kind of a camo green color. We're going to see if we can get it to work. Maybe this will be one of our projects that we do paint and trying to restore, make it look a little bit nicer. Maybe back to its original color. I think it was maybe a blue color because that's what you see down here. And here's the blade. Now you can see the blade is not connected to anything, so there's probably a pin broken or missing on that, but everything else looks pretty much together. We just need to get into it. There's a crack here we're gonna have to fix. This is plastic on the top, so we're gonna have to figure something out to fix that. So I guess the first thing is let's get this cover off. It's stuck on there, so let's see what we can do. I mean, this green color's alright if you're trying to do one of those camo type fishing boats, John boats, but I think we can make it look a little nicer here. There you go. Yeah, we can fix that. That's not a problem. That plastic broken part. So let's see. Initially, I can't get this lid off, the gas tank lid. So let's look into that, and let's get a little closer here. All right. So what do we see? We got paper towel here. Here's the cutoff, or the. Let's see, I think that switches. No, that's just the cutoff. The gas line's been disconnected from the tank here. We got the carb, that's good. Looks like no one's touched that. And then here's the auxiliary tank. I wonder if it's been bypassed. I don't know how it was initially set up, but the bypass, see, here's the bypass auxiliary tank. And it's not hooked up, so we'll have to look into that to see what the configuration of that is. Yep, it's not too bad. I wonder if this is the original paint, the kind of creamish color. It's got spark plug still in there. Everything else looks like it's there. There's the model number. How readable that is. I'll turn it upside down. The plate's upside down. We get the numbers read a little bit easier there. So we'll take some of that and see what we can find. If we can get more information on the web about that. Don't know if the carb's been taken apart before, so it definitely needs to be cleaned. Looks pretty good. Nothing's missing, so that's always a good start. So the gas cap is plastic. It's stuck on there. So what we're going to do is use some pliers to get it off. But whenever I'm doing I try to not damage it any more than anything is already when I get it. And I don't want to I've got these plumber's pliers here that have the teeth on here. But I'm going to show you a tip to make these less abrasive too when you're clamping on here, because if not, it'll leave teeth marks. Or if you want to step the game up, there's Knipex flat face parallel jaws that they've got that are really nice. I don't have any with me right now, but those would work also because it doesn't have the teeth on there. But what you do is you take a bicycle inner tube, cut it into sections, and you can put it over the jaws of the pliers. Now normally you can probably cut it to fit to length, but I already had these pieces from another project, and so we'll just leave them a little long. So we adjust this here. Let's see what we can do. Oh, good. Tank doesn't look that bad. Let's see here if we can get some light in there. So there's a little bit of rust down there. Definitely could be used to clean it out, but I don't think it's that bad. So that's a good thing. Look at that cork on the back of that's in pretty good shape too. Not bad. All right. Let's see. Let's check for spark. Oh, this is already loose here. I didn't even need a socket. Spark plug doesn't look too bad. But let's check for spark here. So we will hook that up. Let's see if we can ground it out. I wonder, this body's metal. Alright, let's see if we got any spark here. I don't see anything. Oh, there you go. I saw one. Saw one little spark. I'm getting a little bit of a spark, but not very much. Since we didn't find any good spark, let's go ahead and take the front off, and then we'll take the tank off so we can get and see the points and see if they probably just need to be cleaned so we get better connections. So let's move up front here and see what we need to take the front plate off. So there's some flathead screws that holds on the front plate, so let's go ahead and get that off. And I think we can pull the knobs off too. I'll figure that out as we come to it. Oh, it's in there good. I think this is an aluminum front, so this is gonna be interesting. There we go. We didn't break it. We got it. Well, that's good. That's one. We got 4 more. I'll bring it back. They're in there pretty good. I'm going to use some Kroll oil. And since I can see the back of these screws, I'm going to spray some of that in there. Maybe that'll help. While we're waiting, we can go ahead and take the coil off the top of here. So we'll get those going. I can see right here, this says 5 horsepower special. I can barely see it through the, right here, through the paint. It says 5 horsepower special, so it's another clue, getting closer. I didn't see that before. Now we just need to figure out how to get the gas tank off. I see 2 bolts. Yeah, there's another bolt there, but these bolts right here, we might be able to get to it. Let's see if we get there. Phillips here, or I mean, flathead. It's in there, they're in there good. That's for sure. We'll go ahead and spray the bolts on the tank also. Because they're not moving either. So what's holding this on are steel screws, but all this is aluminum, which is nice. But the problem with steel and aluminum is they like to stick if they sit. And that's what these screws have been sitting. So but we finally got them. They weren't that corroded, so they didn't break or anything, but still, they don't like to sit. Oop, there you go. They don't like to sit together. They start to corrode, even kept in the best conditions. All right, so there's a screw on this, and these knobs, I'm not sure if they've got a key. Yeah, they've got a little screw in the bottom of them there, so you can see there's a screw right there holding the knobs on, and then underneath there's no light, and underneath there's a screw on that knob too. So we'll get those off, and then we can pull the front off. I'm going to make a little mark here just to remind me kind of where it's at, but I don't think that really matters. Just in case, I like to put it back kind of where it's at. That should do it. That's all the way down. This is just choke pulling in and out, so we don't have to worry about that. Maybe you have to disconnect the choke and just pull the whole thing out. There's got to be a... That's weird that the choke screws on, but the other one you have to, I guess you can adjust it, I'm not really sure. I guess there's an arrow, I don't know. That's just weird why the choke screws on and the other doesn't. And now let's see if we can get this lever off here. It's got a big screw at the bottom. That's not bad. This comes right off here. There you go. Always put your screws back where you find them, then you don't lose them. Now this front plate should come off. Take the coil. There you go. Not bad at all. Just a little cleaning. So now we can really see, we can get closer into the carb. It's a different style. I haven't seen this style before, but it looks pretty much similar to all their small engine carbs. So we'll get into that. Looks like someone has been in there. It looks like a little RTV around where it connects, but not too bad. Let's get that carb off. Actually, let's continue on. We'll try to get the tank off next. See how that's coming. Before we get into trying to take the tank off, I did realize where the auxiliary tank hooks up to. It hooks up directly to the carburetor, which is something new. I've done small engines, but I've never really seen a dual port fuel intake directly on the carburetor. So I think someone took really good care of it. They must have unplugged all that to drain the fuel. That's why these two are disconnected. So that's a good sign that this at least was well taken care of, because the gas tank didn't, I mean, it had some rust, but for the age, I mean, it's not that bad. So maybe we'll get lucky, but we are going to take the carb off, and we'll take at least a look at the bowl to see what it looks like. But let's get this gas tank off so we can check the points. I had to take a break because I needed a tool, and that's a question I get asked a lot, is when should I buy so-and-so tool? The right answer is immediately, because if you need it, just go out and get it. But I know finances are always an issue when buying new tools. Either you get a lack of funds, or the tool that you want is real expensive and you can't just go out and buy it immediately. So an old timer told me a trick that I still use today, and it's very important, I think. So what the old timer told me was, keep a list in your toolbox. The first time you need to borrow a tool, or sometimes if you work by yourself, not borrowing it, but you know you need it, write it down on that list. That way you can keep a running total of tools that you may or may not need. Now the second time on any project that you need that same tool, that's when you need to make a note that you need to start saving for that tool. If it's a little amount, or if it's a big tool, then you really need to save, really start planning to save it. Then the third time you need it on a project, that exact same tool, that's when you need to go out and buy it, because if you need it 3 times, that's something that through your course of building or making or whatever is a tool that you need in your arsenal, and you need to go and get it. So that's usually how I decide when I need a new tool, and or if it's something I really want but something I won't use a lot. So that's just a good tip that I still use today, and I hope that helps you. So this is the tool that I needed to get. This is an impact screwdriver. What it does, let me get the pieces for it. Get the adapter there and the screwdriver here. So what this does is you use a hammer, you put this on your screw that won't come out, and you hit the back of it with your hammer. What that does is, this is for stuck screws, that the impact will push the screw in, the drill in, and then it will turn it at the same time. So if it's rusted or stuck, then it will help to hopefully relieve it. Because I've tried all 4 of these screws that are holding the tank on with just a regular screwdriver, and they won't budge. So I'm hoping this will help get it moving a little bit. So this is, there's different ranges of it. This one is a Harbor Freight Special, which got pretty good reviews for $9. There's some even Snap-on sells them, which are even a lot more than that. But let's give this a try and see how this works. And I'll have a link to this in the description below if you're interested to learn more about it. Okay, so we gave that a few hits. Let's give this a try. Now, the good thing about these old Craftsman screwdrivers is that the body of them are made to take a wrench, and that will help with the torque. Now, this is a super long one because it has a bigger blade on it, and that's why I'm using this huge long wrench, or this long screwdriver. But I wish I had a shorter one. Let's see what we can do here. There you go. Got it. So that definitely helps. So I'm going to give the other 3 a try, and we will get that screw loose. So this next one's giving me a little trouble. I've used impact screwdriver a couple times, but since this screwdriver is so long, and with the wrench at the very end right here, it's kind of awkward to hold. So another thing to do, instead of putting the wrench on the handle here, you can use a smaller wrench and put it onto the shaft of the screwdriver, and that way you can get a little bit of more hold, but you don't get as much leverage. So you hold it with the palm of your hand here, and then you can turn to get more torque with the wrench like that. So that's just another way to hold it. Yeah, but the screw is getting stripped. It's not, I'm not getting a good hold on it. So I've given up on the other one. We'll come back to that one before we start using fire. So we're going to try the 2 on this side. So I like to get a little bit of pressure, tightening it, and then bringing it back. So this one's a little bit better. So that one came out. And then let's see, we've got one more right here. Let's see what we can do. Yeah, this is a stubborn one too. try the impact screwdriver. It's a little bit more cautious with the screws on the back side because those are on the head of the motor, and these are just on a bracket, so I'm not as worried as much. I didn't want to crack the head. I want to spray some. Let's spray some Kroll, let it sit, and we'll come back to it and see what's going on with it. Normally I wouldn't use gas, but because we're so close to the tank, but there hasn't been gas in this in a very long time, so I feel pretty safe doing it. And we'll just have to watch the Kroll to make sure it doesn't catch too much on fire here. So we're gonna heat it up. Yeah, that smoke is from the Kroll. You gotta be careful. We're right on the head too. It's smoking a little bit more than I like, so we're gonna try something else. Well, the screw is still stuck, and I'm starting to strip the screw. So what I'm gonna do is take a Dremel, and we're gonna have to, I don't hate to, but cut the groove a little deeper so we can get our flathead screwdrivers in there a little deeper so it won't twist. So let's do that. Alright, that fits a little deeper. If you're getting tired of your wrench falling off the screwdriver, you can always turn it to the closed end. And you just put that over, just like that. And it stays a little better. There you go. We just weren't getting a good bite into it, now we are. You see I'm tightening it. And then now I'm loosening it. There you go. So it was in there pretty good. We'll probably have to do that for the other side too. So that makes me happy. So let's turn it around. Let's turn this around and we'll go for the other bolt too. Now the other problem is this bolt's way up underneath here. So let me see if I can try again with the screwdriver. If not, we'll just have to cut the groove a little bigger. So I'm tightening it. And then I'm going to loosen it. See, the loosening part is what's stripped on that side of it. These screws are I'm not sure if they're special. I gotta research them. They fit a number 3 Phillips head. They don't fit a number 4. But I'm not sure if they're different. Especially made for this because they're weird. They're very wide. Not seen them that way before. So I'm wondering if it's a special tool they made. Because my 3, the blades weren't long enough on the Phillips. Oh, I see it moving, but it's stripping. Alright, let's see if I can get the rotary. I don't know if I can. See if I can get the rotary bit in there, the cutoff wheel, and see if we can cut us a groove a little deeper. I can't get in there. Let me get a hacksaw blade. Maybe we can do it that way. So we got a hacksaw blade. Good thing is we can bend it. And then we can get it up in there a little better here. Hopefully it won't break on us. Alright, so after bending our hacksaw blade into our custom tool, we've cut a little groove in there, and so now let's give it a try. See if it's deep enough. Nope. I'm gonna cut into it a little bit more, and then I'll bring it back when we get it deep enough. I switched to a smaller flathead. It has a thinner blade on it to get in there a little deeper. I think the hacksaw blade was thinner than the cutoff wheel, so I couldn't get my bigger blade of a screwdriver in there. And then this one for some reason has a smaller handle, and I can't find one that a wrench to fit the handle, so I'm just going to go around the shaft of it. And let's see here. Oh, there you go. Got it. Alright, number 4 is out. Wonderful. So let's get this tank off. And there you have it. Tecumseh is the model of the motor. That's interesting. I don't see any surface rust on the bottom here, so maybe we'll clean up the inside of the tank and maybe we can get this salvaged. So I guess the next thing we need to do is get the flywheel off so we can see how the points look underneath. Let's make sure it's not reverse threaded. I do not think it is because it's going down. It's not reverse threaded. There you go. I'll just put the nut back on here. So it's a little bit above the threads there. So to get the flywheel off, we're going to put a little bit of pressure on it. Come around here. We're going to do it this way here. Put a little bit of pressure on it without breaking anything. And we'll give it a good smack. This part I always hate, trying to get this thing off. Try on this side a little bit. There you go. Just gotta keep at it. Uh-oh. Threads, bent the threads a little bit. We'll have to clean that up. Kind of mess up the threads a tiny bit. We'll fix that. Not a problem. Let's take a look and see what we got inside. This is very clean inside. This says it's Tecumseh Easy Start Magneto. I do see right here where these wires got pinched and it's worn. So we probably need to either fix the wire, well, we'll definitely fix the wire, but if it's connected to the capacitor, we're probably going to have to just put it in tape or something like that. So that probably needs to be fixed so we don't lose our grounding on it. And then let's get into it a little bit, but it looks really good. Doesn't look cracked. We'll have to, and it says set the point to 0.02. There you go. Set points to 0.02. So let's check that. Let's get into this a little bit and take a look. I'm kind of wondering if these wires should have been on the inside so they wouldn't rub. Maybe we'll make sure that happens next time, but yeah, that's definitely worn there. See if we can get this clip off. Wire spring. See the big side on there. And I just kind of just move it off to the side there for right now. There you go. The points look pretty good. So we got the points here. And let's see. It opens up. Here's the lobe. It's the high point on the lobe. There, we can get it moved. That's the high point right there. And it's open. Let's take a look and see what I'm just gonna put it a little. I'm gonna put a little file in there and clean it. I don't think that's the issue. I think it might be this wire that I think it's the wire up here that's ground, that you can see the exposed wire, because the points inside here look clean. I'm going to, let me get a screwdriver. We'll wipe them and clean them just a little bit. Just to get something in there to clean it, but it looks really clean. I like to use emery boards that you find like in a nail salon to help clean these areas here. Yeah, I don't see any corrosion on here. Yeah, it's just so clean. And I'll put a drop of oil right here on this pad for lubrication. Not too much, because we don't want it to get onto anywhere and affect the points. So I've just put a little bit of drop of oil there. So I'm just using some old 3-in-1 oil. It's from my dad's shop. We'll put just a few drops to lubricate. You can't see there you go. A few drops right here on the pad to lubricate it. Not too much, because this dry as a bone. So that'll help that there. Alright, so we're top dead. Center there. It's probably a little close. A little too, yeah, it's probably a little too close. Let's make sure we're top dead center there. Probably could open it just a little bit. We're gonna open it up just a little bit. So what we need to do is get a screwdriver. So there's the screw right here, down inside, and we're gonna loosen that up. Probably was all right. But we will, and you see this little notch right here? I'm using that as leverage point. You stick your screwdriver in there and you kind of twist, and that pushes the points out. So that's way too much now. too loose. And just a little bit, you want to get a little bit of feel of drag. And that's good. And then I just tighten it down, and then we check it one more time here. Perfect. Alright, just double check that it's tight. Great. So I went ahead and took the condenser off so we can get to the wire a little easier. Well, I want to clean it with a little bit of acetone so we can do the wire repair. Just kind of wipe it down. Give you a little closer look. You see right here, the rubbers, the casing's been rubbed away, and you can see the copper. So I'm just gonna use a little acetone, and then we're gonna use a little bit of, this is electrical tape, liquid electrical tape. So we're gonna put a little bit of that on there, and then we might even wrap it up. We'll see how this goes. So we'll give that about 5 minutes to let it dry, and we'll put it back together. That should be, it'll take about 24 hours to get fully cured, but that's good enough right now so that we can get this screwed back in. So we will put that like so. We'll get the grounding screw. It's kind of grounding and it's holding the condenser in, so we'll put that back in. The wires aren't pinched. We're going to run it this way. Let's put that back together. I didn't want to have strain on the wire right there so it won't break. And then we'll put those around that way. Keep that out of the way. Let's put the plate back on. All the other wires look in decent shape. All right, I think we're good. Let's start putting it back together again. I mean, even the flywheel is really clean looking. We'll get that back on. So we're gonna find the key. We'll key it back on. I'm gonna spin it just to make sure it's not rubbing. It's not rubbing anywhere. That's good. Now that we got the flywheel back on, we'll put the cap on here. And the lock washer. And the nuts. Alright. So that should get us. Now let's check for spark to see if everything that we've done works. Okay, we're going to check for spark now. You're going to be looking right here. Here's the spark plug. We're going to do it the old-fashioned way, and then I want to check and use my spark plug checker to see how that works on small motors. Oh yeah, we're getting good spark now. I've had mixed reviews on this spark plug checker. Sometimes it works on small engines and sometimes it doesn't. We're going to give it a try and see what happens. I don't know if it's just this one's not very good or they just don't work well on small engines, but let's hook it up and we'll give it a try. And we're looking right here. I think it's an orange light that lights up. Yeah, see, it's not picking up. And I think the bulb, I checked the bulb and it's fine. Some reason that's not, doesn't light up well on small motors. See, it's not lighting up. And I'll check the bulb, but I think the bulb's good. So if anybody has a reason why it's not working, or if they have a better unit that we can use for spark plug checking, that would be great. Or spark checking, I should say. But right now, that didn't work, but we do know we have spark because of the old-fashioned way. So that's good. So let's move on. So after working on the spark check a little while ago, it's something that didn't sit right with me why the spark checker wasn't working and it was working the other way. So I did a few off camera. I did some more tests and I was getting intermediate sparking, even using it just on testing it with the old-fashioned way with the spark plug resting on the motor. Then I went in, dug in a little deeper, and I did some tests on the coil and the condenser and found out that the condenser is bad. So I went ahead and bought new parts, new coil, new condenser, and I'm waiting for that to come in. And when those come in, I'll show you how I tested the coil and the condenser to see if they worked or not. And then we'll put the new parts in there and get it going. But I just didn't feel good continuing on with it, the spark being intermediate, because then that would have caused problems. False negatives with the carb and all that, so I just want to get it fixed with the right parts. Those parts are probably old anyway and they needed to be replaced, so I'll feel better when we get the new parts in for that. So let's continue on and let's work on the gas tank now and let's get some of that rust out. So here's the tank. As we saw before, inside wasn't too bad. There was a little bit of rust, so let's dump the rust out, and then I'm going to use some evaporust in here and see if we just get this. It's pretty much just surface rust, and we'll clean it up just a little bit and see how that goes. Well, there you go. That was a little bit more rust in there than I thought it was going to be. Let's get the evaporust out and then let's get this soaking. Alright, we got the tank flipped over. I need to somehow close the supply line end of the tank, so just use a plastic bag and a zip tie, and that I hope should do it. Alright. There's different methods to cleaning the tank out, but this is what I like to use is evaporust. So what we'll do is, I've recycled it a little bit. We're going to pour about halfway up, and then, because I don't think the rust is too high up. So we'll put that in there, and then we will let it sit for about 2 hours and then check it. I want to take a break here and check to make sure we're not leaking, and we are leaking. Probably had a hole in the bag. Let me fix that and then bring it back. Alright, so this is how we're going to replace it. I just got an old piece of fuel line, stuck a bolt in there, and then tightened it down. So let's get that and replace the plastic bag here. That's about halfway up. We'll let that sit and we'll come back and check it. While we wait for the gas tank to marinate with the evaporust, let's go ahead and take the carb off here and let's take a look at it. Now, because the lines were already disconnected from the auxiliary tank and from the main tank, I have a feeling that someone drained this before they put it up. There wasn't any fuel in the carb, I hope, so it should look pretty good, but we'll just have to see. We just gotta get this off here. Kind of tight. You know what? Somebody's RTV'd the carb, and it's secured on there. And this nut too, I don't know. I think you have to take this fuel line off before you can get the nut off of the... Let's just check the bowl without having to take this whole thing off. I think we'll do that just to inspect it rather than taking this off. Because we're gambling. I mean, I think we have a good chance of it being dry and clean. So maybe we can service it while it's on it without having to take it completely apart. Hopefully that won't bite us in the end. But let me put this back on here. But yeah, you're gonna have to take this splitter here, intake split, off before this nut will come off. So let's see if the boat gods are with us and will be nice. So coming from the top to the bottom here, there is the bowl right here. So to get it off, we need to loosen this nut right here, which is already loose, so that's kind of nice. And we'll check the hole there to see how clean it is. And look, it even has a little purge valve, which is kind of nice to drain it when you're putting it up. So let me get my fingers in here and see if we can get that bowl off. That bowl's pretty clean. There's a little debris. Some of that's gasket. Oh, it's probably gasket from the right here, the drain valve. That's part of it. So I don't know what we're gonna have to do about that. Probably have to get something to, we need to take that off so it doesn't get in the fuel line. Looks like it's been cleaned. It's got scratches all in it, like somebody sandpapered it, so that's pretty nice. So the float bowl looks pretty good. The needle doesn't seem to be stuck. And I'm going to check the, what is it, the needle up top where the fuel enters. We'll see how clean that is, see if I can get it out, and we'll check it to see how clean it is. But I think we might get lucky on this one, so cross our fingers. So for the carb, I think all we're going to do is replace the gasket that was inside the drain valve here, because it's corroded and there's pieces falling everywhere. So we got to figure out how to get that out. Now there's the gasket that goes around the top here. It's still on the carb. It is a little hard. I'm going to see if we can just work with it. If not, then we'll replace it. If it starts to leak, we'll replace it. But for this, I think we got to just move this spring down. And then pull the keep off. So I think the spring you got to push down here. Like so. And that'll allow us to pull the keep off. Need a third hand. Oh, can't see, can you? So we're trying to get this keep off right here, and I'm having to push the spring down to get it off, and then I don't want to launch the spring out, so it's almost off. I'm trying to hold the spring down. Oh, pop back up. Stick my pick down in there to hold the spring down. There you go. And don't lose the spring. There's the spring. And here's the stop. Now I don't have a gasket like this, so I'm hoping we can use a nitrile ring, O-ring here in place of it. We'll have to see how that works too. Right now I'm going to get the old gasket off here and then do a little bit of sanding. Now this is on there good. And we'll clean it up a little bit. We'll try this 1/8 inch diameter O-ring here. That seems to fit just right. I don't know if it needs to be a flat washer or a flat gasket, or if this round one would be alright. But we'll go with this for right now. And then if it leaks, then we know we'll just have to find something else. So we'll put that back on. Okay, so I think the trick is hold it with your finger on that side. Take the keep on the opposite side. And you kind of push the spring down to get it out of your way. And then you push the keep over like that. And that's how you get it back on. So we'll see how this gasket O-ring works. It's just big enough. It might leak. We'll see how it goes when it has fuel on it. So the passageway seems clear from here to the adjustment right there. So what we'll do is we'll stick the bowl back on right here, and we will just wait when we put everything back together to see how well it, if there's any leaks. And then just takes a 1/2 inch wrench underneath here and we'll just tighten it down, but not too hard, just enough. So now going back to the gas tank, it's been about 3 hours or so that it's been soaking. It probably could go a little longer, but we're gonna go ahead and let's filter out what's in there and see what's going on. So I'm just using a paint filter, and we'll stick it in our funnel to get the big chunks out. Let's see if we can't not make a mess. Yeah, this is gonna be in the way. Yeah, I'm gonna take the cap off because it's gonna make a mess if we don't. Alright, that's part of it. Let's get our other container out here. Alright, the next step is let's get the drain off here. Let's see if the big chunks can. So as you can see, it's not too bad. It looks like it's got about half of the rust that was there. So what we'll need to do is I'll probably let's put it back in there and let it soak for a couple more hours and then see how it goes. So it's been about 2 hours since we refilled the tank. I am going to put some nuts in there and just manually shake it. Maybe that'll help agitate some of the rust, and then we'll let it sit some more. Alright, we'll let that sit and we'll come check in a couple hours. So let's see if we can get some of this old paint off. I'm just using a little bit of Goof Off Pro Strength remover, and I think some of this green spray paint is coming off. I don't want to go too strong and take off the original information, but I'm trying to get it back to somewhat usable. And we'll make it look a little nicer. So we'll keep at it. We'll see if we get some of this paint off. So it's been a total of 6 hours that Evaporust has been sitting in the tank. It's been 4 hours since the last time, or 3 hours since the last time we took it out, looked at it, and put it back in. The nuts are still in there. We'll give it a shake. and then we'll dump it out and see how well the rust did. It looks much dirtier than before. Might not be able to save it after this one. Let's move it over to the other bottle. It's definitely dirtier than before. We'll see how that shakes out. Maybe we could filter it out. I just did a quick look in there. You can't see anything until, let's rinse it with water and get all the nuts out. Then you'll be able to see the bottom. Right now it's so foamy from shaking it, you're not going to be able to see anything. You can see it looks a lot better. Now it's probably got 80% of it out. And we're not doing a full restoration, so I'm not going to be too particular about getting it perfect. We will put a fuel filter on it to protect the carburetor if there's any loose pieces. But I mean, it did pretty good. I bet if we would have left it overnight and shook it some more in between, that would have gotten the rest of it. We could have got this perfectly clean, or pretty close to it. But for what we've got, I'm pretty happy with it. And some of that, I think, is just the lining, the paint. I think there's a paint lining on it, and that's part of the gray. And that's not really rust that you see. And the filter, I don't know if you can see the filter down in there. That actually looks pretty clean, which is good. Alright, so the next thing, there is a little bit of more. There's always a little bit more you can't get. What you need to do for that is to fill it up now with fuel, so that the fuel will keep it from flash rusting. So I'll do that now. I'm just gonna put regular unleaded in there. So after finishing the last clip, it was bothering me. We were getting an inconsistent spark on the spark plug, even though we got it one time with the spark plug and then one time without the spark plug checker. It still bothered me. It wasn't, every time I was doing it, I wasn't getting spark. So then we did a little bit of investigation, and then when we were testing things, I think two things. One, I didn't test the condenser right fully, and then two, I think we're having a problem with the coil. And the reason we're getting inconsistent readings of spark is because the coil was going bad, because I did a little bit more testing and now it's not getting any reading and it's completely dead. So let's move over to the bench and I'll show you, we can retest everything. So where the spark plug wire went around the main shaft of the motor, and then it was held on by this clip, and then the wire exited the head, and then this was the end of the spark plug connector that I cut. Right here where the clip is at, the wire was broken. So it definitely was exposed, and it probably was causing some grounding of the wire, so it wasn't getting good spark. That was one issue that I found, so it needed to be replaced for that. So the second issue is when you're testing your coil, you put one end on the spark plug connector and then a second on the wire lead, and you should be getting a reading of about 3,000 to 8,000 ohms. And let me put this. So I've got it set to 20,000 on my multimeter, so that should cover it. And see, I'm not getting any reading. Now let's take it to where the break was, where the exposed wire is at, and I hit it there and nothing. So now I'm not getting any reading on this coil, and I think that was the issue of why we were getting inconsistent spark, because it was working for a little bit and now it's not working. Now to show you the difference, so what I did also is I went to Amazon, purchased this kit, and I'll put a link down in the description of the kit that I'm using. So here is a good, what we're going to assume is a good known coil. We'll do the same thing, is we'll put one lead on the end where the spark plug connector is at, and then the other will touch one of the wires. And if you can see the reading, it's 8,000 ohms, and we'll check the other one, should be the same thing. If I can grab it, there you go. 8,700 ohms. So we know this is good. So this was the culprit right here. This is the bad piece. Now the other thing is, I was testing, when I was testing the condenser, we did had one issue where it was rubbed, and we put electrical tape. At that time we didn't know that was the only problem. But let me show you on, we don't know if this is good or bad, but all I did was I touched it once and it didn't show anything. Well, this is a capacitor, and they've got machines that can test capacitor, because you're supposed to put a charge on the condenser or the capacitor and then see how it discharges to tell if it actually is good. But a quick way to make sure that even if there's even energy flowing in the capacitor is what I've read, and this is what I should have done. You put the lead, let's do it this way. You put the positive on the wire and then the negative on the body. Hold it for a few seconds, and I think what it's doing is putting a slight charge on here, because if you watch carefully on the multimeter, when I switch the leads and put it on, it should drop. Oh, I'm sorry. It needs to be, also your meter needs to be on the top setting, the mega ohms. I'm at 2 mega ohms right there. I was on the wrong setting, I was too low. So let's try again. So you got the negative, you got the positive. You see it's moving there because it's charging and it's discharging. So what's happening? So now it's open again because everything's discharged. So what you do is you reverse it again, and if you watch the multimeter, it's got a little bit of a charge, so it's dissipating, and it's slowly dissipating until it gets to 1, which means it's completely dissipated. So I think this condenser is good. It is running a little slower than, let me get the new one out. Here's the new one. We're going to charge it up. Sorry. So we'll charge it up. We've got the positive on the wire, the negative on the body. Give it a few seconds, it'll charge up. Put a little bit of a charge, switch it. So now the negative is on the wire lead, and we'll put the positive on the body. And see how quickly that went from 0 back to 1. So I don't know if that's going to be a problem because it's so slow. I think what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and just replace it with the coil, so we'll have 2 good known parts. And because it was slower, that might mean that it's getting older in age, so we won't worry about using that. But that's how you test it. The condenser is not perfect. It at least tells you if it's good or not, if it has a break in it and it's not even working at all. But the coil, the way we tested the coil here, that is a good way to tell if it's good or bad. Running checking the resistance in it. So let's put the new parts back on and let's give it a try. So now we're back at the motor. Let's go ahead and put the coil on first. We need to feed the spark plug line around the body here, kind of tucking it away. Alright, make sure the wires, then we just slide this coil there. And there's a retaining clip. We gotta make sure the wires are not in the way of. And then you got the retaining clip right here that holds the coil on. Like that. So that's tight. And one will be on the grounding here where the condenser, and the other will go with the wire of the condenser and attach over on this side. That's the retaining screw for the condenser, and that ground there. And these were the 2 wires we had issues before that was rubbing, so we'll kind of try to keep that short so it won't be in the way. And then we will attach it with a nut to this right here. And we might not. That's a short screw. Let's see what we got. Got a lot of wires coming in and out. There you go. We got a little bit on there. Oh yeah, that tightened down nicely there. That's good. There you go, nice and tight. I think the wires are good and they won't rub anywhere. So that clip where this is the clip that on the other wire it was broken right where it was attached right here. So we're going to reattach that, and it goes right here. We got to run the wire down. So after you got the wire attached to the body here with the bracket, the cool thing I like about this is the kill switch is when you turn the handle to off, the spring grounds out to the bracket, which grounds out to the body, which kills spark, which I think is pretty cool. And also make sure when you are installing your wire down here to give it enough slack. That's a lot of slack, but when it's all the way closed, make sure there's enough wire for it to move. You don't want it to bind up. So I left just enough so it's loose and not too tight, because you don't want to be pulling your wire out. That's probably what happened before and why it will dry rot and with the rubbing too. So just make sure it's the right length. If it's too long, it'll bind up on the other side also. So the rebuild kit came with this end that attaches to the wire and to the spark plug. I don't like it as much as what the original came with. This is the more wire, the wire end that goes into the spark plug, and then this piece of metal pierces the wire to make the connection. The reason I like this one better than this one, because the piercing of this is just a short little piece of metal, and sometimes I just don't feel it goes. It probably will go all the way through and be fine, but I still would rather have this much sturdier end go into the wire. I don't know the official name of that, but what the spark plug goes into. We're going to line it up into the middle of our wire. There you go. And before I put the boot on, let's test it with our meter to make sure everything is connected. You do one end on the coil or the spring part, and then the other part you could just touch the wire of the coil, and there you go. You're getting the same. Remember, it was 8.78 was what the resistance was before when it was off, so it's the same thing. So that means we're getting a good connection there. So the next thing I like to use is some dielectric grease, basically fancy Vaseline. If you got Vaseline, that'll work too. Just stick a little bit in your boot here, and then I'll stick some down here for later for the other side, and this will help guide it in. So much easier, so much easier. And there you have it. Then you just get the spark plug back on, and we'll do that in a little bit, but yeah, we can. Then you just get the spark plug, put that dielectric grease, just make sure you have a good connection on there. Just like that. We're back in business. So now we have everything back together. Let's get the flywheel back on and tighten it back up. And let's check that spark again. So we've got, I think it's 11/16. There you go. We got the drill set up. Spark is going to be right here. Get you zoomed in. Turn the light off here, maybe that'll help a little bit. We'll see if we see anything. There you go, good. Well, there you go. I am very happy. We're getting a more consistent spark. So I think it was the coil that was bad. The condenser probably would have been alright, but I just went ahead and switched out with the new one. So let's move on. We probably need to, let's see if we can fire this thing off first before we put the tank back on. I've got my bottle of 2-cycle fuel oil mix. We'll throw a little bit down in the spark plug hole and we'll hook it all together. pretty good. We got it going. So it has spark, has enough compression to get it going. It was running really well. The next thing we probably are going to want to do is we'll put the tank back on, and we need to check the lower end. But I also want to do some painting on this, so I think we'll stop it from here. We know that it's a good unit. We just need to check with the gas tank and all that, and I think we'll do that in the next video. Hate to split it up, but I think this is getting a little bit long. It's always fun to get something old running again. So remember the ABCs of making. Always be creating. Till next time. Alright, I wasn't going to leave you with just that one time. Let's fire it off one more time and see what it does. Put a little bit more gas in there. Alright. Spark plug. I'm going to take the choke off this time. We got it cranked up all the way. There you go. Perfect. So let's get the we'll get the tank on, and let's see if we can get this thing running in our water tank. See you next time.